We need to take down one of these cartels, either Juarez or Tijuana. Not because they're a symbol, but hell, they are a symbol. But because we need to send a message. When Carlos Ayala hires Michael Adler as his legal defense, I send Ben Williams down to San Diego as the prosecutor. Why? Because it's a symbol. It's a symbol that we are sending the best. And it's a message that we're going after their top guys.
Okay, that's the scene we were talking about.
Yeah.
Javier.
Yeah.
Right, but it really didn't touch on...
No, it's right after that he asks, so open up the...
Who do we have from...
What about treatment? Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about decriminalization, right, Judge? And
well,
what did you want to say about that, please?
Well, I think the proponents of Prop 36, which includes think tank folks, Linda Smith Center and in California, the Campaign for New Drug Strategies, would like to see legalization and decriminalization of narcotics because their take is it's sort of a no harm, no foul. The person's just hurting themselves. But I think that ignores certain facts. Number one, I think we have to recognize that there's drug-driven behavior, property theft, crimes, prostitution, things like that. But the other thing is if you start taking drugs and treatment out of the criminal justice system, when your taxpayer dollars dry up, when the economy goes down, as we're seeing it sort of happening right now, they start cutting. The government starts cutting at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, at human services, social services programs. And our folks will never get treatment. You know, Robert Downey Jr. will always get treatment. Our folks will never get treatment. But if you keep it in the criminal justice system, from a public safety standpoint, we'll always be able to have monies there to do the partnership and get people treatment.
Is Robert Downey Jr. just mentally ill, Stephen? Personally, do you know?
Personally,
no.
Is
it a mental illness?
That's really, this is a tragedy, you know, really, but it's not any greater a tragedy than the hundreds of thousands of other young people in this country right now who are coming from dysfunctional homes and relationships where the most available solution or option is drugs, and you know, you have to start considering that the dysfunction in the society and in the family, in the American family, it makes drugs a viable choice, and so it's mental illness. You know, I mean, there are a lot of kids who you can see them. I mean, you see them. I've seen my older son is 15 years old, and his peers. I see you take a cross section of teenagers, and you see the ones that don't really know where they're going or what they're doing, and they're coming from families where, you know, they've seen everything already. They've seen, you know, beatings, and there's abuse, there's alcoholism, you know, there's drug abuse in the family, and so their choices are to turn to drugs.
And even the best raised kid, I mean, teenagehood is such a quandary with your identity, and it's every little thing is so important.
Your body's
you know, if you're for a girl, if she's 10 pounds overweight, it's a big problem. For a boy, you know, if he's smaller in frame, he feels, you know.
And sex becomes an issue.
But that's elemental. That's going on for generations, and we always act every generation like this is new. We should know by now this is what's going to happen. Kids are chemically dependent on hormones. They forget the other drugs. But the other side of it, I think, is to open up our imagination. I think this is where we're at, to imagine another way of doing this, to imagine new resources, new ways of looking at each other, to get the Javieres and the judges and people like that, sit in the table, people who have been on drugs, know about drugs, people who never haven't been on drugs, sit down and say, we can have more imaginative, more responsive, more inclusive policies, not the policies we have now.
Javier, you wanted to talk about the Mexican czar, or you want to react to something here?
Let me react to something else.
React away.
Very quickly, I just want to say, you know, there was a message, we even saw a clip where the individual is saying, you know, imagine hundreds of thousands of whites coming into your community, you being a black person, how that empowers you, how that makes you feel, you know? And the money that you're going to make off of that, can you imagine the psychological impact? And that worries me because the message that it's giving me is that that's exactly what's happening. What I see in our communities is blacks going and buying from other blacks, Latinos going and buying from other Latinos, not whites coming into our community buying from us. That's not what's happening. And it does speak to, there is some racial undertones to all of this, because it's not by happenstance that this policy is saying, they are the enemy, meaning Colombians, Mexicans from Mexico, Colombians because they make it, Mexicans because they push it, But we are the enemy, the black and the Latino population of this country, because again, we're people of color, and we're the ones who are making this product, supposedly, according to these people, available to their white children.
Very true. Let's take a look at here's some of the email we received regarding today's topic, and you can send your comments to Cafe CALIF, or you can call us at a number we'll show you in a second. But this is the first one. It says, Colombia's evil governments have forced its poor to prostitute their land for growing cocaine. One statement by Ms. Vega. Next, Mexico needs to stop being the great middleman in the evil drug enterprise, from Nancy Vega. We also received, we Americans have to accept that people die to get us high. That's from Anonymous. That should be a slogan. And then finally, this one's the best. Blaming Colombia for the U.S.'s drug problem is like the fat man blaming the donut maker for his fat panza. That was from a guy named Rudy Robbins. Okay, and once again, you can reach us at cafecalif@aol.com or call us at 323-603-4240. So Javier, do you think that Rudy's right?
I want to end. Yes, absolutely. What the czar said, the guy that was going to be the czar, what he said was, "How do you wage war on your family?" This man finally realized that it's not war. It's not a war between us and them.
That's right.
It's a war amongst ourselves. It's us.
That's right.
And when we start to realize that, maybe we'll start to do away with the war concept.
Yes, with that
and start
concept
looking at
itself.
it as, how do we heal ourselves? How do we heal our families?
Real quick, I want to talk about the plastic cocaine that was in the movie. You say that really exists, that it can't be detected.
And more, and beyond that, you know.
When you hear that, Judge, do we stand a chance? We are out-financed, out-technicalized.
I thought for many years, if the criminals would just put that innovative mind to positive use, we'd have alternate energy supplies. We have lots of things.
The money is just, the money is so,
they had to stop
great.
taking dollar bills from families and friends in the jail because they were finding that they were dipped in cocaine or PCP, and then the inmates would get the bills.
You slice it up?
Well, not even slice it up. You wet it, and then you distill it, and you could get high in the jail. I mean, such innovative minds. If we could just turn that energy around, we would have such a more productive society.
Yes.
What does the fact that 1 in 5 Americans admit that their families have been affected by drug use say about we are the most addicted nation in the world? What is it about America that makes us so vulnerable, guys? Is that we're just so rich?
I think it starts. Sure, I think it starts when you're a kid. You know, when I was a kid, you watch Saturday morning cartoons. They're giving you sugar. They're giving you cereals. They're feeding you. I know what I'm saying.
It's Cocoa Puffs.
But you know what?
Maybe Cocoa Puffs is the gateway drug.
Well, you know, I think there's something to that. Not so much Cocoa Puffs, but the idea that you're going to get this immediate gratification. You start very young, and then what? I have my kids, and they're into it. They want that stuff now.
Absolutely.
They go to the store, and I have to teach them. This is a long-range thing, kids. Stretch out your life. You should live to 80 years old. But kids, that's okay. Kids can do that. But we as adults have to understand that it starts when they're young. There's a value. This is a clash of values, really. We're talking about real clash of cosmologies that call it worldviews, how we see the world.
It's like a doctor explained to me, if someone told you that for $10 you could use this little pill, this little substance, and you would have an orgasm that was 100 times better than any orgasm you ever had, would you do it? Well, that's sort of hard to walk away from, for most people.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll be here next week with more on Cafe California.
And I hope we pick up right where she left off.
Keep going.
No, I'm kidding.
Next week,
next week, orgasm with a little pill. That's all we need. Imagine how that would sell. It's sort of like the orgasm pill.
Yeah.
You know, for many years.
Exactly what
get this. What do you think of this fact that the following banks were found laundering massive amounts of drug trafficking dollars that they did not know about it? Citibank, Chase Manhattan, Bank of America.
Well, I would say every bank is involved, because when when you're making drug money, you have to get rid of the money. You have to sell it. You got to put it somewhere. So every store, everybody's involved in one way or the other.
Yeah.